Why does Sarai initially urge Abram to cohabit with Hagar, only to regret it later? Why is Hagar's Egyptian identity emphasized? Why does Sarai blame Abram for following her own instructions? Why does God send Hagar back to Sarai? And why does the divine messenger tell Hagar to name the child Ishmael, yet Abram is the one who ultimately names him? To begin unraveling this complex narrative, we must look back to Genesis 11. Abram travels to Egypt and, fearing for his life, asks Sarai to pose as his sister. Sarai does not protest and goes along with the plan. As a result, she's taken into Pharaoh's palace, likely as a concubine. During this time, Abram acquires significant wealth, and Pharaoh allows him to leave Egypt with his newfound bounty. It is likely that Hagar enters the story here, perhaps as a gift from Sarai from Pharaoh. Meanwhile, God continues to promise Abram that his descendants will inherit the land. But Abram remains childless. Sarai, in a moment of selflessness and desperation, offers Hagar as a surrogate to bear children on her behalf. The plan seems reasonable. Later in Genesis, both Leah and Rachel will do the same thing. Clearly, this was societally accepted practice. But acceptance does not mean ease. Sarai quickly regrets her decision. Hagar becomes a living reminder of the trauma that Sarai endured while in Egypt, a trauma rooted in Avram's earlier choices. Sarai's anger to Abram stems from his apparent inability to recognize this emotional burden. She's willing to sacrifice, but seems to get no response in return. This tension is especially poignant given the previous chapter where Abram expresses frustration to God over the possibility that his servant Eliezer might inherit the divine promises. Sarai's pain is compounded by the fear that she is being replaced, not just by Hagar, but by the spiritual legacy she hoped to share with Abram. God's command for Hagar to return to Sarai is not merely an obedience, it's about restoring Sarai's status as the matriarch of God's chosen people. Had Hagar remained separate, it might have signaled that Sarai had lost her place in the covenant, not just in Avram's eyes, but in her own. As for naming Ishmael, the commentaries offer different explanations. Rashi suggests that God appeared to Abram and relayed the events of Hagar's encounter, including the instruction to name him Ishmael. Sforno sees this as a coincidence. Abram independently chose the name for similar reasons. Radak offers a simpler view. Hagar told Abram what happened, and he named the child accordingly. Interestingly, the text does not explicitly describe this exchange. The absence of detail may support Radak's interpretation. There's one final question. What do all these questions have to do with each other? To answer that, we can look at the name Ishmael itself. The name Yishmael is grammatically the future tense in Hebrew. It comes from the root shama, shin mem aleph, meaning to hear. The prefix yud typically denotes a third-person masculine singular future tense in biblical Hebrew, so Yishmael literally means God will hear. The future tense is significant in the context of chapter 16:11, and again may offer an answer to why these questions are all linked. Vayomer la malach Hashem, hincha harata v'iladat ben v'karata shmo Yishmael ki shama Hashem el aniyacha. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Behold, you are pregnant and shall bear a son, and you shall call him Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your affliction. Here, Shema seems to be in past tense, has heard. But the name Ishmael is in future tense. So maybe the name Ishmael has two connotations here. One, Hagar's pleading was heard, Shema. But also there's a message of the future. The messaging is Hagar being saved by God, but the naming is not just for Hagar, but perhaps also for Sarai. Yes, this child is born through her maidservant, but God remembers Sarai as well, and he will hear her in the future. He will hear her pain and suffering, and will give her a son in the future as well, a son that is her own. That is why Abram names him that in a message to his wife, not to be afraid that this child born of the Egyptian is a replacement. Sarai will have her progeny, and God will hear her as well.